This is Dodge Brothers Farm and Ranch. Well, here I am down at Dad's. You guys just saw this bridge and these barrels in the video just a few days ago. Well, here I am again because it's flooding again now. It's not as bad as it was in October last year, but all the barrels are in the water. A fair amount of the pasture is underwater. The cows are up there. I don't know if you can see them or not. Yep, they're right up there. Cows and calves have found a good high spot. This corner here is actually the highest spot in the pasture if they get stuck on this side. If they get stuck on that side, there's a lot more ground that's high to stand on over there. But this creek never stays up for more than a day or two at a time. It comes up fast and goes down fast, makes a big mess. But here we are with the water up again. And the barrels are not touching the bridge. It looks like they are over on the other side, but that's an optical illusion. These PVC pipes on the posts are keeping them in check. But as you can see, from the other side here, no barrels touching the bridge yet. They won't either, unless obviously a log comes through and knocks those PVC pipe posts over. Here comes a log, a little one. See, look at that, right underneath the barrels. Well, it's just been a couple days. Here I am back at the scene of the crime. The water's back in the bank and the barrels are back down where they belong. They almost landed exactly where they were before, not quite. They're just a little bit further back towards the bridge. Got a little lumber here. Send that on down the line. There. I like that a lot better. So here's another kind of unconventional thing we did with this fence. We needed a way to get the electric fence wire hot from here across the creek to the other side. And we needed a way to keep the wires tight on the little wing fences right here that go from the corner brace down to where the barrels start. So here's what we did. You can see the wires aren't super tight, but they're electrified, and that's what's important. And we stretched a barbed wire across from the top of this T-post to the top of the T-post on the other side. And then we braced the T-post to make it a little bit more strong. We braced it with a piece of angle iron and wired it around there nice and tight. And we're running our hot wire through this little insulated hose, and then we're lighting up this wire right here to get the electric fence charge over there to the rest of the pasture. What this also does is it also keeps the top of these posts pulled together and keeps this fence, you know, modestly tight. I could tighten it up a little bit more right now. As you can see, it's not great, but it certainly does the job, especially as long as we keep the electric fence turned on all the time. All right, barrels are back in place. I need to get back to the fence on the other side of the corral. It was underwater, that little section of fence in the low spot, so we unplugged the electric fence during the flood. I need to go back there and pull out any debris, corn stalks, tree branches, and junk that's stuck in that fence right now and get it hooked back up to the electric charge so the cows don't start messing with that fence, and particularly the calves don't try to crawl underneath. Once I get that done, we'll go back to the other creek crossing, because this creek actually goes through both sides of the pasture. So it has to cross the fence up there and cross underneath the bridge here. So we've got another fence stretched across the creek up on that side. I need to check on that. It's a little different style of creek fence. Need to make sure it's not being held up by a bunch of tree limbs and stuff, and just get everything sorted out after this short little flash flood we had. Okay, I apologize. I'm super easily distracted, but I've got the neighbors over here are preparing to put this rye up that they just mowed, looks like probably yesterday or the day before. I kind of think I'm gonna get the drone out and fly around and watch them just a little bit. Actually, he's mowing back there right now with the swather. Should we do that? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Should we drone them? All right, we will. that was fun, but now we got some actual work to do. Better get this fence cleaned up and get the electric fence hooked back up so we don't have the cows putting unnecessary pressure on it. So I just realized that the whole section where I was showing that my brother had cleaned part of the fence out and pulling corn stalks out from under the fence, I wasn't recording, and I pushed the record button when I thought I finished recording, and that was when I started recording. So here's a brief recording of me walking along holding the GoPro, not realizing that I was recording. Whoops. I have a love-hate relationship with these hip waders. I love them when I'm in the water, but when I'm out of the water, they are really hot and sweaty. Really. So I'm gonna set you down on the bank here and we'll try to get this taken care of. This type of creek fence actually works great if you have a fairly narrow channel to cover and if you have a big tree and a corner post or something on either side to hang your cable from. We just hang a couple of cattle panels from the cable and let them touch the surface of the water, and it works great. It does take a little more upkeep because when the flood comes through, it has a tendency to collect sticks and branches like you see here, but it really works pretty well. There, that should be a lot better. It's pretty deep right here along the bank. Brain Fart Friday. Guys, I'm not feeling very smart right now. I just bashed my head on a tree limb climbing out of that creek bank. Whew. That was not fun. Anyway, I tested the electric fence. Last week it was testing 10.2 kilovolts before the flood, and now it's only testing 7. So something's wrong somewhere. I don't know where. I have my theories that it might be back here in the third creek crossing that I forgot to mention to you when I was talking about creek fences just a bit ago. There's actually a third one that crosses a small tile creek back here. So let's go see if there's a problem back here with the electric fence. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure where to look. So the electric wire goes up to the insulator on that tree and then down across and hooks onto the hot wire on that fence over there, and nothing that I can see is wrong. So well, everything looks fine there. The wire's not touching anything that it shouldn't be. And this little panel crossing looks really good. It landed right back where I would want it to. Well, I never found a short in the fence, but guess what I found? Cows. It's always encouraging when you can locate them once in a while. They've got a nice shady spot back here that they love to hang out. It's close to the creek, and there's a bunch of really nice grass right up on top of this hill here, so it's the best of both worlds. This is one of their favorite places to be, right up there. If you can't find them there, they're usually over here in the creek crossing where we drive through with the pickup. So anyway, stick the ground rod in the ground. I know how it works. I'm talking to the viewers. I know you know how it works. And then touch the fence with it. And I don't know if you can see the number or not, but it's reading 7.44. So then if we reach through here and hook the whole rest of the fence up, where we just cleaned it off and test it again, 6.43. I'm actually pretty happy with that because there's quite a lot of vegetation that's touching that section of fence over there now that I just hooked on. And this has been unhooked for the last couple days. So now that it's hooked back up, it'll actually burn right through this grass. We've got an electric fence problem somewhere here. I can hear it snapping. They do have some mineral block left. Wow, is it loud, Ben? Look at this. It's just this weed. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's arcing clear back to that post from that weed. Oh, I bet the reading goes up a little bit now. 6.76. we gained up a little just by knocking that weed out of there. I can't believe it was popping so hard like that. I don't hear anything else, do you?
It's probably just all that grass down there.
Yeah, all that on the other side of that little slope, there's a whole bunch of weeds against it too. Okay, so if we unhook it at this gate, it basically unhooks the entire northeast half of the pasture, and the rest of it can't be unhooked without being shut off back at Dad's place in the shop. So I'm gonna unhook this here and see if there's any shorts on this side of the fence. I'm guessing there's not, because it's been on the whole time. You can see how dead the grass is that was trying to touch the fence. It's crazy how good that fencer is. So with it hooked up, 6.76, just like before. Without it hooked up, 8.45, 8.56. Wow. I'm actually pretty happy with that reading. Like I say, it was 10.2 last week before the flood. But while we've had that section of fence turned off, about a half a mile of it, over the last 4 or 5 days, the grass has grown a lot. And so now there's grass touching the fence for a half a mile where it wasn't before. It's gonna take a few days to get that grass burned off and killed where it's touching the fence. And then I guess the reading will probably be up in the 9s again. Anything over 5 or 6 kilovolts is a pretty good jolt. The cows are not gonna mess with it as long as it's up there in that range. The fence charger that we have in the shop back at Dad's is seriously overkill for what we have. We only have a little over a mile and a half of fence hooked up to it, and it's a 100-mile fencer. Now they rate these fencers for absolute perfect conditions, not a single blade of grass touching it anywhere, perfect connections at every joint, and you're never gonna have perfection. So we went ahead and bought the biggest fencer we could find. We don't wanna be bad neighbors. We don't wanna have our cows leaning against the fence. We definitely don't wanna have them getting out in the neighbor's cornfield. That's not good at all. So we wanna be good neighbors, and like they say, good fences make good neighbors. And a really good hot spark, the cows will only touch it maybe once the whole summer that they're there, and they will remember that feeling. They won't go back to it again. So it's all up here. We really lucked out on this flood. We did not get nearly as much rain as some of our neighbors did. We only had between 1.5 and 3 inches of rain, and there were some areas up around us that got upwards of 5 inches of rain to the north and to the west of us. In fact, that's why the creek came up so fast in the cattle pasture down to Dad's, is because of all the rain that fell to the north and to the west of us. Hey, I appreciate you helping me out with the fence project today. As always, thanks for riding along, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.